So, many people believe, and I did too, to be honest, that our ability to trust starts by the time more or less we go to school. I would say like primary school. Um, and that, that need to be, that our need to be on our own for hours when we were used to be with our main carer, normally our mums, but not exclusively. Um, I would say primary school, but we do have like nursery. So I would say toddler, like 3-year-olds. Our ability to trust would start around 3-4-year-olds, because that's the moment we kind of started to be on our own, away from the people we feel safe with. And, it was also the time that we learned about following rules that were not just our house rules, and we had another authority figure, normally a teacher. And then we also had to learn to interact with a bunch of other children that we are not familiar with. But the truth is, psychologists actually believe that our sense of trust, our ability to start trusting, is actually established by the time that we reach our first year of life. And that is actually the time that we start learning about what trust is, based on the reactions of the adults around us, in response to our care as infants. And one of the psychologists that actually started with this theory was Erik Erikson. He's a renowned psychologist and psychoanalytic, and he's also mostly known for his theory on psychological development in human beings. And he always believed that the first stage of our sense of trust occurs by the time we are conceived and we are born, up until our first year of life. And I was mind blown when I read about this. But actually, if we think about it, if we reflect on it, it's actually during our first year of life that, we are truly dependent on other people to care for us. We rely on our parents, or the main carer, being a grandmother, being a childminder, the main carer of our infancy. We rely on them to provide us with our basic needs, which is, food, clothing, hygiene, protection, security, warmth, and love. So it is during this period, this very, very raw period of our lives, that we solely rely on our parents and carers, because we are dependent, we are babies, we can't do anything by ourselves. That we learn to trust in these authority figures in our lives, being mom, dad, grandmother, granddad, the main carer, because we know nothing else. We are introduced in this world, and these are the people that we are introduced with, and we trust them with every part of our being. We don't know nothing else, right? Let me know if this makes sense. But the problem is that, the problem with trust starts when, for any reason, our basic needs, which are food, security, protection, hygiene, warmth, love, all our basic needs, are not met consistently and affectionately. That's when we are first faced with this sense of mistrust. That's the core, when our basic needs are not met. And we have this sense of mistrust towards first the people that are supposed to look after us, a sense of mistrust towards the environment we live in, that it's supposed to be safe and loving, and also towards ourselves for having needs that were not or could not be met. Because as children, especially as babies, we don't have the understanding why our cries cannot be heard, why our needs cannot be met. Children cry not because they are moaning, it's because they need something. Even when they cry for attention, that's a need. Attention is a behavior that comes from the need to be loved, to be nurtured, to be seen, to be heard. And as children, we don't understand when the adults that are supposed to look after us cannot meet those needs that we have. And that's when we are faced for the first time with this sense of mistrust, that we cannot trust others. Met. And when our soul evolves without this capacity to trust, as adults, we live with a wounded child inside of us. A wounded child that is constantly seeking for attention, seeking for love, seeking for security, seeking for understanding, seeking for belonging. If you go through our childhood being in constant fight and flight response, not knowing what to expect, measuring everything that we do, everything that we say, trying to read the adults around us, like trying to read them, their behavior and their emotions, so we can protect ourselves, and when the need for security and the need for love is replaced by the need for survival, we tend to learn later on, and I did as well, that, we tend to learn to deny ourselves our own needs. We learn to deny our own desires. And even we learn to deny our own wounds. We make those wounds that are ours and that matter and should be validated. We tend to believe that we did something to deserve it. We don't own it as wounds, we own it as a punishment that we deserved. And we deny our own needs because if others couldn't meet our needs, we are not worthy to have those needs met. And we deny our own desires because, again, we are not worthy to have anything that is good, that is pleasurable, that is easy, that is joyful. And this kind of behavior is the behavior of the wounded child that still remain with us, even as adults. The child that has been denied, that has been rejected, that has been forgotten. The child that buried her soul to survive and to protect herself. Protect herself from further punishment, further blame, embarrassment, humiliation. It is the child that was in so much pain that her conscious mind, to protect her from further pain, just buried these painful memories and feelings deep, deep inside the unconscious. And then we forget that actually the key for our capacity to trust, for our capacity to love, for our capacity to be our authentic selves is there in the unconscious mind, in all the pain and memories that were buried, because it's less painful to remember that. It's less painful if we deny that we went through it, if we pretend it's not there. And healing your wounded inner child starts by parenting yourself the way you yearned, the way you longed to be parented. And this means to learning to love yourself, to nourish yourself, to nurture yourself, learning to accept yourself, to care for yourself the way you longed to or for as a child, learning to honoring your emotions, validate them, be seen, be heard, parenting yourself the way you probably were not, but you get to now. And that's how you start healing your wounded inner child. And all of this is awareness. It's having the awareness. And during this process of learning to love yourself and love your inner child, you actually start healing your inner wounds that related to your childhood. Your first inner wounds are the core ones. You start reconnecting with your child's pure innocence, with your pure nature, your essence, your playfulness, your creativity. And the trust ability that you were born with. The trust, the first sense of trust that you were born with up until your age, your first year of life, as I spoke in the beginning of this life. And what this does is once you start healing those inner wounds and you start reconnecting with your true essence and your ability to trust, then learning to trust others and learning to trust the external factors, life, and learning to trust the divine becomes a conscious response rather than an unconscious reaction to the unhealed wounds that are triggered.